Hi, I'm Jackson. In this course on GMAT Math, I'll teach you 5 interesting concepts that will help you solve GMAT Math questions in an efficient manner. These are the 5 types of questions which we will be discussing in this course. First, we have constant product type problems where we have two parameters and the product of these two parameters has to be maintained constant. For example, it can be the number of units of milk that you consume and the price of milk. Now, if you want to maintain your expenditure constant and if the price of milk increases, by how much percentage should you reduce your consumption? Next, we move on to questions based on mixtures and allegations. In this section, we'll teach you how to identify in what proportion to mix two different liquids so that you get the desired final concentration. After this, we move on to a special type of speed and time based question where two people are moving towards each other and you need to find the time at which they will be meeting. And we will teach you techniques with which you can do this type of questions which are considered difficult by students in a very quick and efficient manner. After this, we discuss a tricky question which is based on the property that any arithmetic progression, if you divide the terms of that arithmetic progression by the common difference or the factor of the common difference, the remainder will be the same. And finally, we will discuss how to apply permutation and combination in the right scenarios. When should you use permutation and when you should use combination. This course will teach you how to approach GMAT Math in the most efficient manner. I hope you will join this course and let us work together. In this video, let's try to understand constant product type problems. Alright, so you have a family that is next to you and they love milk. Alright, so they love milk and say the price of a packet of milk goes up by X percentage. Now, the question is, by how much should that family reduce the consumption of milk so that the expenditure remains constant? So this is a common type of question that you will see. Now over here you can note that the price increased by X percentage, right? And therefore the consumption has to be decreased by some percentage. Why is that so? Because the expenditure is equal to the price into consumption, right? For example, if the price of a packet of milk is $1 and if they used to consume 5 packets, that's a total of $5. Now if the price goes up to $2, so they can only consume 2.5 packets, right? So that 2 into 2.5 is also 5, 1 into 5 is also 5. Alright, so that's what we mean with this type of questions. Now to solve this type of questions, let's discuss in this video a shortcut as well as the conventional method. Alright, let's keep this aside and we start with the shortcut. Now over here you can see that there are two parameters, right? For example, expenditure is constant, price is one parameter, consumption is one parameter. So P1 stands for parameter 1. Similarly, P2 stands for parameter 2. Now, if one parameter increases by 1 by X, then we can easily find by how much the other parameter has to decrease. Now, let's take an example and parallelly go ahead with the method. For example, in this case, let's say that the price increased by 20%. Now you will see that over here you have a percentage and this is a fraction, right? So we need to convert this percentage into a fraction, which can be done very quickly. Now let's see how this can be done. So 20% is nothing but 20 by 100, right? So you can see that that's the same as 1 by 5, right? You can either think of it as cutting 20 both from the numerator and denominator and you get 1 by 5. Or if it's not divisible like this, in some cases you might have 2 by 13, etc. Right? So that can be written as 1 by 100 by 20. So you took this 20 to the denominator. So this becomes 1 by 100 by 20. Remember, 1 by A by B is equal to B by A. So that's what we have used over here. And that's equal to 1 by 100 by 20. 100 by 20 is 5. So again, you get 1 by 5. Alright. Now, if you can do this very quickly and with practice, you'll be easily able to do that. So the price increased by 20%. Now we've converted 20% into 1 by 5. In that case, the parameter 2, or in this case that's consumption, right? Consumption is the parameter 2 in this example which we are dealing with. That parameter has to be decreased by 1 by x plus 1. So if there is an increase of 20%, which is 1 by 5, you need to decrease consumption by 1 by 6, and 1 by 6 is the same as 16.67%. You can convert 1 by 6 into percentage, you'll get 16.67%. So if the price increased by 20%, the consumption has to be reduced by 16.67%. Remember, how do you do this conversion? That 1 by 6 is 16.67%. That's using 1 by 6 is equal to x by 100, and you just need to find x, right? So x will be 1 by 6 into 100, and that will be 16.67%. All right. Now, if the parameter 1 decreased by 1 by y, then the other parameter would be increasing by 1 by y minus 1. So you don't need to study these separately. It's one and the same. You can see that it's one and the same. Now from here to here, you just, if you put y is equal to x plus 1, you will get x is equal to y minus 1, and you will get this part over here. So I would recommend that you just remember one of them. And one more interesting thing to remember is, remember, wherever is the decrease, it has the higher denominator. So over here the increase is 1 by x and the decrease is 1 by x plus 1. Over here also the decrease is 1 by y, the increase is 1 by y minus 1. So you can see that the decrease part is the greater value, right? In both the cases, you just need to remember one of them, and accordingly you can apply it in problems. We'll see it in examples. All right, now let's keep this aside, and let's also take this case soon. But before that, I'll just want to have a quick side note. Now we have seen that if the price increases by 20%, we have seen that the consumption has to decrease by 16.67%. So we have seen one method to find this using this approach, right? You could also take an example and find the same thing. For example, assume that the expenditure was 100, right? So the constant product is 100. Now 100, if you increase it by 20%, that's 120, right? Now by how much should you reduce this so that you get back to 100? That's the same thing, right? So the change, the percentage change, remember, is always change by initial value. The change is from 100 to 120, right? So that's 20. 120 minus 100 gives you 20. That's the change. So 20 by the initial value. So you're going in this direction, right? You're going in this direction. So the initial value is 120. So 20 by 120 also gives you 1 by 6, which is the same value that we got over here. That's also 16.67. All right. Now let's get back, and we have seen the case where the price increased, and I've also mentioned that it's the same as decrease, but just for thorough understanding, let's take an example where the price dropped by 20%. So then that means that you can increase the consumption, right? Now let's use this method over here first. So 20%, we have seen that it's 1 by 5. Now if there is a decrease in 1 by 5, you need to have an increase of 1 by 4, right? So over here, remember, wherever is the decrease, the denominator will be the highest. So because there is an increase and I have 5 over here, so I have to put a lower denominator. So that's 5 minus 1, which is 4. So if there is a decrease of by 1 by 5, then there can be an increase by 1 by 4, and 1 by 4 is equal to 25%. So if the price dropped by 20%, you can increase consumption by 25%. Now you can do the same thing taking an example also. Let's take that also over here. Initially, let's assume that the expenditure was 100. Now if there is a decrease in 20%, right? So that's 80, right? So 20% of 100 is 20. 100 minus 20 gives you 80. Now by how much should you increase 80 so that you get back to 100? So that percentage change is change by initial value, and you're going in this direction, right? So the initial value is 80. So what's the change? It's 100 minus 80, which is 20, and the initial value is 80. So 20 by 80, which is equal to 1 by 4. which is equal to 25%, and that's the same thing that we got over here. All right, now we have seen this over here in the case of consumption type of problems where the constant product was the expenditure, right? Over here we have expenditure is equal to price into consumption. Now this same method can be used also in different types of problems. For example, there could be a case where time into speed is constant and time into speed is distance, or efficiency into time, which is equal to work, that's constant, right? In these cases also the same method can be used, and we will see more of these in their respective sections in this course. All right, now we have covered the shortcut, and we have also covered the logical way of approaching it, where you assume 100 and then you make the change and then you try to get back to 100. We have seen both these approaches. Now let's also discuss the conventional method quickly, and I recommend that you should not be using the conventional method because the initial methods that we discussed are much faster. But just for a deeper understanding, let's quickly also think of the conventional method. All right, so over here expenditure is equal to price into consumption, right? Now I can say that the price increased by X%, that's what's given over here, right? Therefore the new price will be 1 plus X by 100 into P, and it's also mentioned that the expenditure is constant, so I will use E itself for the expenditure in the second case. So I can write that expenditure is equal to 1 plus X by 100 into P, right? This is the price that has been increased by X percentage into the new consumption, which is C2, right? All right, so this I can rewrite it as C is equal to 1 plus X by 100 into C2, because I take this P to the left hand side and I get E by P over here, and E by P is equal to C from this equation over here, right? E by P is equal to C. So we substitute that over here to get C is equal to 1 plus X by 100 into C2, and therefore you can say that C2 is equal to C by 1 plus X by 100, and you know X. For example, it could be 20% or it could be 25%, and using that you can find the new consumption, that is C2, and with that also you can find it. But we have already discussed some interesting methods with which we can find this much faster, and we will be applying it in future practice problems. Hi students, in this video let's discuss mixtures and allegations. Now this might be a new term, allegations. Now what is allegations? It's actually just the reverse of weighted average. Now let me take an example to explain this in a better manner. All right, now let's say that there are 20 boys and their average marks is 40. All right, and let's say we have 30 girls and their average marks is 60, and we are asked to find the combined average. We have already seen that the combined average can be found as 20 into 40 plus 30 into 60 divided by 20 plus 30, right? 20 plus 30 is the total number of people, and 20 into 40 plus 30 into 60 gives you the total marks. All right, and you get the combined average as 52. Now say that in the question it was given that the average marks of boys is 40, all right, and it's mentioned that the average marks of girls is 60, and it's mentioned that the combined average is 52, and you're asked to find the ratio of the number of boys to the number of girls. This is where allegations come into picture. Let's see how to solve these type of questions. All right, now over here we are given that the average marks of boys is 40, average marks of girls is 60, and the combined average is 52. So we write it like this. I write 60 over here, 40 over here, and 52 over here. Now I take the difference over here, the difference between 52 and 40, that gives me a difference of 12. I write that over here, and the difference between 60 and 52, that's equal to 8. So I write that over here. Therefore over here I get that the ratio of the number of boys to the number of girls is equal to 8 by 12, which is equal to 2 by 3. So over here we have taken 8 because that's what's below 40, which is the case of the average marks of boys, and we are asked to find the number of boys by the number of girls. That's why 8 is in the numerator and 12 is in the denominator, and the ratio should be 8 by 12, which is equal to 2 by 3. Now, that means that if the number of boys was 2 and the number of girls is 3 and the average marks of boys is 40 and average marks of girls is 60, the combined average would be 52. Now, instead of 2 by 3, we could also take the number of boys as 4 and the number of girls as 6 or 8 and 12. It's the ratio that is constant. It's not the absolute number in this case that matters. In this video, let's discuss meeting based questions. We'll take an example question and work through it together so that you will be able to learn the best approach with which to attack these type of questions. Alright, say we have 2 points A and B. Now, person 1 starts from point A at 4 p.m. and reaches point B at 6 p.m. Person 2 starts from point B at 4 p.m. and reaches point A at 5 p.m. Now, we need to find out when they will meet and where they will meet. Now, you can find where they will meet if the distance between A and B is given. Alright, now let's get started. Now, you can see that the distance traveled by person 1 and person 2 is the same, right? That's the distance between point A and point B. So, the first step over here is the distance is constant, and we know that when the distance is constant, speed is inversely proportional to time. Alright, now what's the ratio of time over here? Time taken by person 1 is 2 hours. Time taken by person 2 is 1 hour. So T1 by T2 is equal to 2 by 1. Now, because distance is constant, speed is inversely proportional to time. Therefore, S1 by S2 will be equal to 1 by 2. Alright, now you can see that they both start at the same time, that is 4 p.m. Now, we will see in questions what to do in scenarios where they do not start at the same time. In such scenarios, we will try to find out where the person who started earlier will be at the time when the other person starts, and then we will proceed. Now, we will see more of that in questions which will follow. Now, let's proceed over here. Because these two people start at the same time, the time traveled to meet will be equal. That is, say for example, I'm just taking an example, say they are meeting at 4:30. Let's assume that. So in that case, you can see that A is traveling from 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. That is half an hour, right? Similarly, the person who's traveling from point B is also starting at 4 p.m. and meeting at 4:30. So this person also is traveling half an hour. So in this manner, you can see that time traveled by both the persons will be equal. Alright, let's proceed. Now, over here, because the time is constant, we know that when time is constant, speed is directly proportional to distance, right? Because remember, you don't need to by heart these. Speed is distance by time. Just remove the constant part. So you're removing time because time is constant. So speed and distance are in the numerator. So speed is directly proportional to distance. Therefore, S1 by S2 will be equal to D1 by D2. And hence, because we already have S1 by S2, D1 by D2 will be equal to 1 by 2. Alright, let's keep that aside. Alright, now over here we have the distance AB, and let's divide it into 3 equal parts. Why 3 over here? Because the ratio between D1 and D2 is 1 by 2. So you do 1 plus 2, that's equal to 3. So we divide the distance between A and B into 3 equal parts. Alright, now the distance traveled by person 1 will be 1 time this part. So if this is X, this is X, this is X, the distance traveled by person 1 would be X, and the distance traveled by person 2 will be 2X. So this is the point where they will be meeting. So if we know the distance between A and B, for example, in the question, if it's given that the distance between A and B is 3 km, then the meeting point will be 1 km from A. Alright, now let's proceed. So we have identified the meeting point over here. Alright, now let's proceed to find the time of meeting. We need to know at what time they meet. For this, let's move on to step 3. We only consider person 1. Alright, now person 1 will be moving from A to O, and then from O to B, right? Now over here, the speed is constant, right? Speed of person 1 is constant. Now, when speed is constant, we know that distance is proportional to time. Remember, speed is distance by time. Just remove the constant part and you take this to this side. So you get time is proportional to distance. That's the same thing that we got over here. Now, because this is the scenario, the ratio of this distance, that is AO by OB, that's 1 by 2, will be equal to the time taken by person 1 to move from A to O to the time taken to move from O to B. That is AO by OB is equal to TAO by TOB. That's equal to 1 by 2. Now, we know that the total time taken by person 1 is 2 hours, right? That's given over here. So we need to divide this 2 hours into 3 equal parts and then you take one part out of it, right? That is, person 1 takes 1 by 3 of 2 hours. TA is 2 hours to reach point O. Now TA is equal to 2. So 1 by 3 of TA is equal to 1 by 3 into 2 hours. That's equal to 2 by 3 hours, which is 40 minutes. Therefore, the meeting happens at 4:40 p.m. Right? So they are starting at 4 p.m. You add 40 minutes to that and you get 4:40 p.m. as the meeting point. Now let's quickly revise. What was the scenario? We had two people and we knew the time taken by them to cover the same distance. So that's what we started with. We found the time ratio and with that we found the speed ratio. That was step 1. Step 2 is that we know that both of them start at the same time. Therefore, the time traveled to meet is constant. And when time is constant, we know that speed ratio is equal to distance ratio. And with that, we found D1 by D2. That was step 2. Now, with this, we are able to find where they meet. All right. Now we proceeded and we took only person 1. Now, in the case of taking only one person, the speed is constant. Therefore, the distance is directly proportional to time. We know the distance ratio, that's 1 by 2. And with that, we find the time ratio, time taken by person 1 to move from A to O to the time taken by person 1 to move from O to B is equal to 1 by 2. Now, we just find the time taken by person 1 to reach point O by taking one part out of 3 equal parts of the total time, which is 2 hours. And that is equal to 40 minutes. And therefore, they meet at 4 plus 40 minutes. That's 4:40 p.m. Let's learn an interesting property with respect to reminders for arithmetic progression. In any AP, if you take any term and if you divide that term either with the common difference or with the factor of the common difference, you will get the same reminder. This is a very useful property. Let's take an example to understand this better. Alright, for example, let's have an AP with common difference 12. So that can be 2, 14, 26, 38, 50, 62, etc. You can see 14 is 2 plus 12. 26 is 14 plus 12 and it goes on like that. Now, if you divide any term of this AP with 12, which is the common difference over here, right? If you divide any term with 12, you'll get the same reminder. Let's check whether that's the case. If you do 2 by 12, your reminder is 2 itself. If you do 14 by 12, it goes once and you have a reminder of 2. 62 by 12, it goes 5 times. So 62 is 5 into 12 plus 2. You can see that in all of these cases, your reminder is the same and over here it's 2. Another thing is over here we have said that you could also divide with the factor of the common difference and get the same reminder. Now, we know that 3 is a factor of 12. So let's try whether all these terms give the same reminder when you divide with 3. Let's try that. 2 divided by 3, 14 by 3, 26 by 3, 62 by 3, all of these give me the same reminder 2 itself, right? In the case of 26 by 3, 24 is 8 into 3. So 26 is 24 plus 2. So your reminder over here is also 2. Now, you can also see that it's not always the case. Say, let me take two terms from this AP. I have 2 and I have 26. Let me try divide both of them with 5 and let me see if I will get the same remainder as I am getting in this case. So 2 divided by 5, my remainder is 2 itself, right? Because 2 is 0 into 5 plus 2. Alright. Now if I take 26 divided by 5, my remainder is 1, right? Because 26 is 5 into 5 plus 1. So you can see that the remainder is not the same in this case, and that's because 5 is not a factor of the common difference. In this section, we try to understand permutation and combination in great depth. Alright, now what do we mean with permutation and combination? These are just tools that help us to count the number of ways in which something can be done. Let's try to understand it in greater depth. Alright, I denote permutation with P and combination with C. Now let's take an example. I have 3 friends over here. That's hen, broccoli and bee. Now out of these 3 friends, you need to select a captain and a vice captain. Alright, let me mark the position for the captain and vice captain over here. Now in one particular way of doing this, I have hen as the captain and broccoli as the vice captain. In another way of doing this selection, I have broccoli as the captain and hen as the vice captain. Now we need to ask ourselves whether these 2 ways of selecting a captain and vice captain are the same or different. Over here you have hen and broccoli. Over here also you have hen and broccoli, right, in these 2 instances. But you will see that in instance 1, hen is the captain, and in instance 2, it's broccoli that's the captain. So you will agree with me that these 2 ways of doing this selection that we talk about are different, right? And it is in these type of cases that we use permutation. Alright, we go on building an intuitive understanding of the same. Let me keep this aside. Alright, now let's take another example. Say we have 3 teams. We have India, we have USA, we have Germany, for example. And from these 3 teams, you need to arrange football matches. Alright, now say in one way in which I want to arrange a match is India versus USA. Another way is USA versus India. Now let's ask us the same question that we asked over here. Are these 2 instances the same or different? Over here also you have India and USA. Over here also you have USA and India, right? Now you will agree with me that these 2 are the same, right? India playing USA and USA playing India. Both are one and the same. It is in these type of instances that we use combination. Alright, we are moving ahead building an intuitive understanding of combination and permutation. Let's keep this aside. Alright, now you will see that in this case where we had to select a captain and a vice captain, the order is important, right? Having the hen over here and having the hen over here makes a huge difference, right? So the order in which the items are arranged is important. But what about in this case? We can see that the order is not important. If I mention the game as India versus USA or USA versus India, it's one and the same. Therefore, the order is not important, right? Alright. Now, you will notice that in the case of permutation, selection and arrangement is involved. That is, out of these 3 friends, in one instance, we selected 2 friends. That is, we selected the hen and we selected broccoli. That's selection over here. And after doing the selection, we arranged them in the positions of captain and vice captain. Over here, we have hen in the position of captain and we have broccoli in the position of vice captain. And in the second instance that we've written over here, we have broccoli as the captain and hen as the vice captain. So permutation involves selection and arrangement, and that's because order is important. That is why arrangements of the same items in 2 different ways actually give us 2 different results. In the case of combination, that's what we have seen over here, only selection is involved, right? We have seen that placing India first and writing the match as India versus USA and placing USA first and calling the match as USA versus India does not make any difference. Both are one and the same. Therefore, whenever combination is involved, only selection is what we do. Hi, I'm Jackson. I hope that you have enjoyed the techniques that we have discussed in this course. With the right techniques, you can crack the GMAT with a very good score. To truly master GMAT Math, consider enrolling in my comprehensive GMAT Math course at Udemy. In this course, I'll be teaching you techniques that helped me score 760 in the GMAT. Every section is dealt comprehensively and it's divided into manageable chunks, and we start from the basics and take you to an advanced level. This will be the only course that you will need to master GMAT Math. You can know more about the course using the link provided here. To know more about my comprehensive GMAT Math course, go to this part where it is written resources, click on it, and here you will get the link to that course. So click on this link and you will be redirected to the comprehensive GMAT Math course. All the best in your preparation.